Okay, so we're here today with Harley. How's it going, man?
Pretty
Thanks
good.
for, yeah, we can do that. Acrylic recording.
Yep.
And we're not, I thought you were Newmarket always, but what is this place?
Oh man, this is the weirdest place to describe. Like, no one knows. It's like I'm in the middle of like all these little towns.
It's because towns just keep growing, like suburbs grow.
Yeah, and so I just pretty much tell everybody like it's the closest place is Newmarket.
Newmarket,
but it's right off the 400 at Highway 9. So it's like technically I'm King City, but the closest like town is Kettleby, but it's also right beside.
What showed up on Google. Yeah.
But it's also right beside Pottageville and Schaumburg. So.
Well, it's nice. I mean, you're kind of out separated from the city. It's not hard to get to, and there's parking. And but you are actually like fairly close to the city. You're like about a half hour if there's no traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I always thought. No, I was kind of worried, and I'm like, well, if you're not heading here in rush hour, which like probably never would be. Yeah. To go in the same direction. Yeah. You can get here in like half an hour, 45 minutes, depending on where you are.
Well, I know you from, and we've been meaning to come out here. You're a bit of a ways away, but you've been meaning to come out here for a couple of years since we started these tours. And I know you from our Facebook group where we, for engineers, where we buy and sell stuff. And you, I swear, are buying and selling stuff more than anyone I've ever seen. I don't know if it's like an algorithm, but like, what's the deal, man? You're always moving stuff.
I'm just really particular about what I like, and I don't like having stuff lying around that I'm not going to use or that's kind of just taking up space. Yeah. I find there's a lot of studios that have like 12 vintage Gibson, Gretsch, all these little amps that like, and it's like, those are cool, but like, I don't know, like, do you need 10 of them? You know, like, I just like stuff that works really well, and I do a lot of different genres here, so I do kind of have to have a lot of different stuff, but I don't need 12 metal guitar amps, sometimes. So I'm just always buying stuff and testing, because you can't really tell what something's going to be like, and if it's going to be useful for you unless you try it out.
And try it out for maybe 6 months, like over the course of a few sessions. Yeah,
exactly.
And the great thing about high-end gear, we were talking about this earlier today with Lisa, but the great thing with high-end gear is that you can try it for a little while and then sell it for the same price you bought it for.
That's exactly it, man. Yeah. And that's like a lot of like my buying and selling stuff. Like sometimes there's something that I'm kind of interested in, pops up for a pretty good price. I'm like, all right, well, I'll jump on it. And then if I decide to sell it, like a lot of the time you kind of make an extra $100 or something sometimes.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Sometimes you lose a little, but it evens out, and it's kind of the good. It just makes it easy to like and especially like with guitar pedals too. Like guitar pedals are almost like currency for musicians.
Oh yeah, it's totally
So
that's a good way of looking at it. I always thought of it as like kind of baseball cards.
Yeah, but that's a great way to
I remember, like, I've always played like acoustic guitar. I've never been too much into electric. And I remember a buddy of mine telling me about how this was about like 6 or 7 years ago, how addicted he was to buying guitar pedals. And I just like, that didn't really do it for me. I was like, it's not really my thing. And then like maybe about 2 years ago, I caught the bug. And now I totally get it. Like I have to, because they're cheap. Like, you can get a great one for $60 or like a really great one for like $200, and it's not a huge investment.
Yeah. And you can usually almost sell them for the same price.
Totally.
Or trade them for something else that you want.
Yeah.
Like I've had, like, there's like every pedal I have is like started off like way over here as like a Boss DS1 and just trading it, and it ends up becoming something else, And it's like, that's the pedal that I wanted in the end anyway. So
Jay and I were just talking for an hour about pedals on the drive over. I was like asking him about like a good reverb pedal, and it's like once you just get into a hole, there's like it's like, well, I could get Canadian made because that's a kind of cool thing, or I could get stereo, and now I'm up over $400, and then do I want it for mixing as well?
It's just it's a bit of a black hole. And that's why, like, like with a lot of the gear, like I'm very aware that I'm like down that hole, and I'm like all of a sudden at one point I'm like, nope. I'm out of that. I don't need 10 delay pedals, even though I want them.
How long have you been here, like working out of the studio?
About 6 years.
Okay, cool.
About 6 years, you
went to school, right?
Yeah, so Seneca has this program called Independent Music Production, which seemed kind of like a music production program, but it should be more called like the independent musician program, because it really kind of teaches you how to be an independent artist, and like a lot of it's recording, and like some of the teachers also teach it like Trebas and Metalworks. So it's kind of like but there's also like a few songwriting classes, some theory classes. There's even a live sound class. And
was it worth it?
Oh, it was definitely worth it.
It was good?
I recommend it to like
That's
everybody.
amazing.
Yeah,
you don't always hear that about engineering and music schools.
There's only like 2 that I would recommend to anybody, which is that Seneca one and like maybe like OE-Art in London or like Fanshawe. Like I know a lot of people from Fanshawe that are you know, still doing stuff, but most of the people I know that go to like the private colleges. I know there's some people that that do it, but most of the people I know just aren't even working in music anymore.
Wow.
Probably because they just need to pay off the crazy amount of money they spent doing that. Yeah, and I think a lot of those schools too are like set up to teach you like an old school way of recording, like a big studio way of recording. And in Canada, there's like, it's not really that many studios like that, you know?
Yeah,
and
totally.
For you to get a job on, it's like impossible.
Well, this is a great place. We're going to go in the control room. You've got some incredible pieces of gear. I'm excited to talk about. We're going to talk about mics. We're going to talk about drums.
Beautiful.
You have posted on Instagram and on Facebook for a long time of this room, and I hope Jay's camera can do it justice because it's a gorgeous place.
Thank you.
Like it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's humongous. It just keeps going. It's like most times you take a picture on Instagram and then you show up and you're like, oh, this is just a closet.
Yeah.
This is really.
Yeah, I have like the opposite problem. I was thinking that earlier. Like it's because the ceilings are a little bit low. It's a little hard to kind of actually capture the size of the place.
I can see what
film,
you mean.
unless you have like a really crazy wide angle.
True.
Or like you really set it up and you get in like some really awkward corner to take a picture. But yeah, that's pretty much most people's experience when they come down. They're just like, whoa, I didn't think it would be this big.
So I want to ask you, I mean, you're doing this for a while, and I don't know if you are necessarily genre specific.
My background mostly is like, I grew up playing a lot of like metal and like a lot of hardcore kind of stuff, which I quickly grew out of, like, well, not quickly, but like, kind of like right when I started this, I started really distancing myself from that. It kind of just became everybody using the same sounds. And, so I've got to do a lot of folk stuff. I'm pretty like band oriented. Some artist stuff. I've written some music for some country artists, and just kind of. I'm a lot about like the song and the sonics. I'm a kind of a minimalist, I think, when it comes to production. I don't like.
I like that.
I don't like overproduced stuff. Like we were talking earlier, like somebody just using all their gear because they want to use it, when they just never even listened to the song in the first place.
That's funny, actually. I was talking with someone recently about, that thing when you're mixing, if you're mixing something that you recorded, if you use like 2 really expensive mics on one source, it's really difficult to, shoot that into mono and then high pass it and then throw it over to the right. Because as an engineer, or as a tracking engineer, you're thinking, wow, man, we spent all day recording that piano, and now I got to mix it up. It becomes really challenging to actually, be so minimal when you remember back to what went into doing that.
Yeah, being objective about the song in the end when you're mixing. Because you recorded it and you're like, oh, man, I really love that thing or that part of that guitar pedal that's on that whatever, and you want to put it up. It's tough, and I have I'm always struggling with that with myself. Like, that's why I really try and get like almost the mix done while tracking. Like really making sure, like I don't care if the bass knob is all the way at 0 if it sounds right, when the band's playing, because then in the end I don't really have to actually mess with anything too much. But like and it's fun. Like I do mix some other people's stuff sometimes, and I have no idea how it was recorded at all. I think it's such a refreshing thing because you just get into it and you're like, I don't care if they used all their most expensive gear on the overheads. They sound bad, so put lots of stuff on them or make whatever. It's
to that end, do you have a philosophy of recording? Like, how do you go about recording?
It's pretty project specific. I do like doing a lot of live off the floor stuff. But yeah, it's definitely project specific. I don't like to dilly-dally too much on stuff. I like stuff to move pretty quickly if I can. Keep the inspiration going. I've done a few years ago I did a record, like 9-song record in 2 days. And I did a 9-song record in 2 months. And right now I'm finishing up a 9-song record that's going on 3 years. So it's depending on, and I like to move quick usually. It's very very dependent.
I want to talk mics while we got them open, and I want to talk drums before we go in the control room.
Cool.
This puppy, tell me about this, because this is new to you, I think.
It is new.
I know a lot about your life.
Even though we've never met before.
Even though we've never met. And I think that, I think Mike Keir got one of
these. He did. He did just get one of those.
So what's the deal? Tell me off camera what it costs. What's the deal with it? Why is everyone so crazy about it?
I mean, like, you know, if you listen to any like kind of old school country stuff, it's usually that microphone in the middle of a room, and that's it.
Really?
That's it. Yeah. There's like I think Sound on Sound has like a really cool like 40-minute video about recording a band in like an old kind of not quite Motown, but like one of those like kind of Johnny Cash rooms kind of things.
Yeah.
And because it's a ribbon mic, right? There's like super hard rejection on the side.
Oh, okay.
So you maybe like, you know, you put the drums kind of facing the side of the mic so that they're quieter.
Oh,
and you know, you have the vocals in front,
but it does pick up the back. It's figure eight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's just a classic mic, you know. It's has so much low end, you know. It's unbelievable.
It looks like it should have low end.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Like if I'm standing here, it sounds like I'm like doing this to a 58. It's kind of crazy, you know. I had a Coles 4038 for a while, which I was kind of hoping would do something like that, and it was great. But with my low ceilings for like overheads and stuff, it didn't quite work. But that does exactly what I want.
What do you use it for?
Vocals, acoustic guitar.
Acoustic guitar?
Yeah, if you want something like really warm.
A buddy of mine has like a really, really vintage version. Like I'm talking like something, well, I can't say it on camera.
40s.
But very old. And I got to listen to it, and I was a little disappointed with how noisy it is. Are these noisy, or are these because they're brand new?
They're it's a ribbon mic, so if you're recording something really quiet and you're maybe don't have like the cleanest pre or the cleanest power, it might be a bit noisy.
Okay.
But you know, it's pretty good. You know, I had a singer kind of, you know, doing like very quiet, folky stuff, almost just whispery talking stuff, and didn't really have any issues. You know.
And so you'll use this for someone with like a soft voice over this, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, they're all like really just like I have too many vocal mics, you know, and I just like to kind of make sure I really get the right sound for the vocalist. You know, a good way of describing this is it's very rich and like kind of like chocolate pudding. It's very slow.
Okay.
Like if you listen to any old kind of recording, it has that kind of vibe. It's just very round, but still. It's incredibly present without being ever offensive,
right?
You know, which is just a really hard thing to achieve. So
it's really beautiful, but this is not like equivalent, comparable in price to a 4038, though. Would you say?
Not quite, but so this is the cheaper version. I think it's called the CE or economical something.
Okay.
So it doesn't like it. The more expensive one has like silver along here, and this is all chrome instead of just like kind of being like I guess nickel plated or something. So the other one's a little more fancy, but they're the same microphone.
I got to hear it. You got to play something from it if you can.
I have a fantastic recording.
I would love to hear it because it's up my alley. That sound.
Yeah.
What about this bottle of Gatorade here? I've never seen this guy before.
That's a great name for it. But yeah, this is actually the blue bottle.
Oh, okay.
So
as it should be.
Yeah, it's it's basically Blue. Blue's been making this since I think early 90s. Like I think it came out in 91 or something like that. And it's basically based off an old Neumann from like the 40s. They had like I forget what it's called, CMV 563 or something crazy.
Okay.
And it's basically just Blue kind of like took it and updated it a little bit. So the heads on it are like you can take them off like this.
Okay.
And I think Blue has, I don't know, I think they only had 10, and they just released like earlier this year another 3. And each one of these capsules are basically like just very different, you know, characteristic microphones using the amplifier. So it's a tube mic, and it's just incredibly clean and incredibly clear. It's comparable to like maybe like a Manley condenser, or like a Sony C800.
Right. Okay.
And I kind of wanted to get one of those for like, you know, when I do like pop sessions.
Yeah.
But the unfortunate thing is they're so freaking expensive, and you can really only use them kind of on a pop song.
Right.
You know, and I wanted something that was like in the middle And so like this mic is like, if you ever listen to Blink-182, like all the ones he did with, oh man, forgetting the producer's name, super amazing producer, but all the vocals are recorded with a blue bottle.
Wow.
Justin Bieber's Christmas album was recorded with one of these.
Wow.
But like it's still like I can use it on like a shoegaze band if I want to.
Right.
And it's just a huge sound.
Is it just vocals, or do you use it in other ways?
It's really fantastic on acoustic guitar. It's
okay, I can see that.
Ultra clear. It's just like a microphone where you talk into it and you're like, it's incredibly huge sounding.
Yeah. Wow.
Like when I was testing it with a singer, he was standing as far back as he could because he was just like kind of afraid because it was so clear and sensitive. It was like picking up like just everything, And like, not to say that other mics don't do that same thing, but it just has this huge clarity, Like there's a transformer in there like the size of your fist, and
I can see.
Yeah, and you can even you can even go on eBay or whatever and buy the old Neumann capsules, and put them on there, and it works fine.
Oh wow,
yeah,
that's amazing. So. And then what do we have here? An 87?
Yeah, an 87.
Yeah,
it's the.
Not excited about it, or what's the deal?
It's like a default.
Yeah,
it's nice, but I'm very rarely like completely blown away by it.
Sure.
It's like it's almost always a very safe choice, and if none of the other mics are, it's also a very neutral choice, which is great. It's fantastic. But
if you have a vocalist in, do you do a shootout, or do you know when you hear them what would work best with them?
Usually I try and do a shootout as much as I can because I also have like a U89, which is kind of like I have two U89s.
What's the deal with these?
So they're basically like they have the exact same amplifier as a U87, but they have a smaller capsule like a 414.
Oh, okay.
So they're very similar to a U87 in a lot of ways, but they have like a U87 has like a very big like mid-range kind of presence boost. They don't have that.
Oh, okay.
So like a lot of people like them as like kind of like maybe if a U87 doesn't work on like a female vocalist, a lot of people like them on those.
Interesting. What model is this here?
It's a BULS. Not the brass capsule one.
Right. I have the exact same of this. Yeah. It's actually on a very long-term loan, and it's phenomenal.
I love that microphone.
It's phenomenal. It's also they're impossible to find.
They're really hard to find. Yeah. I have two of them, and they're my go-to overheads and great for acoustic guitar.
Oh, you have two of them?
Yeah, they're just in the case. I don't have enough.
You son of a bitch. How did you find them?
Well, one of them my dad had like a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
And then we bought a second one off eBay kind of like maybe like 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Right before they kind of really started to jump in the price. And it's funny because they're like, I think serial numbers, I think if I traced it back, they're like 10 years apart in age.
Yeah.
And they sound pretty different, but using them in stereo is fine.
Sure.
Never had an issue.
Well, when the guy was lending it to me, I got the sense that he was going to want it back. And so I wanted to buy it off him, but I didn't know what to offer him. And I went online to find the price, but nobody's selling them. Oh. So I couldn't get like an actual price.
Actual idea, yeah.
So just because, I don't know, they're so great. I'm interested in, like, Warm Audio kind of made one that's similar to that. It's kind of interesting that they would make like not such a overly hyped mic that they would model.
I think that like the 414 is such a classic that like it's not very impressive looking, but like every studio has one, and like you can use it on literally everything, like toms, overheads, like just
electric guitars,
vocals, like vocals, I like so many engineers, it's their favorite mic on something, like almost everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
what's this? I see this around a lot.
So that's a Sony C38B. Okay. And it's I would say it's kind of similar to the 414 in terms of tone. Like some people, it's kind of darker. It's not like it's not very bright.
Okay.
Like some people, a friend of a friend said the greatest quote to describe it was like, it's like a ribbon mic when you don't want it to be too ribbony.
Okay.
So it's like thick and dark, almost just kind of ribbony. I was just like gonna say that again, but. And it doesn't. I don't think it has a transformer, so it has pretty low output, almost like a ribbon.
Okay. I've seen them around a lot.
There's also a tube version, which is a very, very famous version.
Oh, okay.
Called a C37, and I think.
Do people use them for vocals?
People do use those for vocals sometimes, but the C37 is what people use for vocals a lot of the time.
Okay.
I think like a lot of the Shania Twain stuff, and man, I'm blanking on his name. What's his super famous Mutt Lang, I think.
Oh, Mutt Lang,
I think that's his go-to mic for vocals, is the C37.
Okay.
And they actually just reissued those.
Oh, really?
Not Sony, but another company that was making all the parts for them.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, they just kind of...
These I see a lot. What do you use these for? These are what, Bayer?
Bayer M160s.
M160s.
Yeah, those are another fantastic, like just probably one of my favorite microphones besides a 57. Guitars, toms, snare drum, cymbals.
And that's ribbon, right?
Acoustic guitar, yeah. But it's like a hypercardioid pattern.
Okay.
So it's super, super focused.
Yeah.
Like if some people use them for overheads, you know, like they were the classic mic in when the levee breaks thing.
Yeah.
They're just unbelievable. They're like a 57, but just kind of thicker and a little darker. And,
right.
So yeah, that and a 57.
I gotta try those.
They're amazing, man.
I have a pair of these.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to sell them to get a 4038, but I can't right now. My buddy has a pair too, so I figured I could sell them and get another ribbon and then borrow his when I need to. But they're great.
I love them.
They're really great.
Like
they come with this little setup.
Yeah, and they're like pretty inexpensive. And honestly, like I've tried a lot of like room mics in here, and those two almost always win.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And do you leave them like this, like make a stereo? Okay, cool.
Plumb line.
Yeah.
Set them in the middle of the room. It's just kind of almost. They're a little noisy, but you know, unless you're just using them. I don't know. Yeah.
And they look pretty on Instagram.
Every single. I always set them out and I was like, oh my god. And then I like throw it at them. Those are the cheapest mics in this place. Yeah. But they're fantastic.
They are really great.
They're really good. Yeah.
And I've used them on piano. That's why I really
nice.
Like on piano. So we missed this guy here.
Oh yeah.
What's the deal with this little fella?
Oh yeah. So basically the worst mic clip design since the 421.
Oh, this? Oh.
Yeah. It just it just falls right over and like it just falls out. Like you can't even use it. I don't know. It's a Bayer. Oh man, I think it's
Bayer Dynamic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
M81, and I have two of those also. I got them for like $100 or something like that. I've used them a couple times. They're kind of like just like a weird dynamic mic if you want something a little different.
Yeah.
But they also, I think they might have share a transformer or something. They sound like, if you've used a lot of Bayer mics, like the M201 or the M88 or any of the Bayer mics, it has a Bayer sound. It's like thick and kind of smoky, but
it's beautiful.
That's why I love it. It's just such a fantastic looking microphone.
That's great.
Yeah.
It looks like, open it up and keep some cigarettes in there or something.
Or shave with
it,
whatever.
Classy. Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, and tilt that back because it's going to fall over. Yeah.
So you have more drums than we see in the average studio. This kit here is beautiful. So I was asking you a little bit before. We'll come together so not piss off Jay. But what? I just don't know where to start. Like, why so many drums? And you told me when we got here you're not a drummer.
No,
that's what I thought.
I've been like playing drums lately a lot, but not just pretty basically, And
I'll interrupt you for a second because most studios tell us that people bring their own drums, and here you have 4 kits.
The biggest thing about drums is having good heads on them. Like you can have the worst kit if you buy good heads and tune them up right. It's gonna sound pretty good. There's there's a ton of stuff on YouTube about that too. Like $7,000-8,000 DW kit with like $100 CB kit, like with good heads, and you compare them, and you're like, $8,000 difference? What?
Yeah.
But it's kind of a funny story. I had an old sonar kit for a while, or not an old sonar kit. It's just like kind of your standard, maple whatever, and it was good. Just kind of covered a lot of bases, but I got a little bored of it. I wasn't really getting some of the drum sounds I wanted, and because I do a lot of different genres, that's kind of why I have all these different kits.
Right.
So this kit right here that's set up.
This is a really interesting kit.
So this is kind of a weird kit. It's from the 50s. I think most of the badges are 1951. And it's a Ii Ludwig Kit.
Okay.
So there was a weird thing where Ludwig got bought by the company that owned Ii in the 50s, and then they basically canceled Ii right after. So this badge is only from 1950 to 1955, I think.
Ii and Ludwig. That is really cool. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, and the funny thing too is like my drum kind of like obsession started with the snare drum, which is the same era, Ii Ludwig snare.
Yeah.
And I kind of traded a bunch of old like 90s rack gear for it.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, oh man, I have like a stack of rack gear. And but I looked on the internet, it's like that snare drums were like $800 or something. So I'm like, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
And I just kind of was like amazed by the character in that snare drum, and realized, you know, all drums aren't just kind of like your standard maple drum kit, even though most of these drum kits are maple.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of gave me some inspiration. So I found this kit for pretty cheap, and I knew that I liked the shell configuration. The wood in this is, I think it's mahogany, poplar mahogany. So all the old Ludwig kits are the same kind of configuration. And yeah, I kind of picked it up. And
is this your go-to, or is it just because it's so cool?
I just kind of set this up because it looked the best setup.
It does. It does.
Yeah, it's great for like more indie rock kind of stuff.
Okay.
It's really warm and thumpy. It doesn't have a whole lot of attack. It's pretty muted. The kick drum is fantastic. The kick drum is like, you could use that on a metal record. You could use that on everything, depending on like maybe what head you put on it.
So do you prefer if people use your drums?
Almost always, yeah. It's like, I don't, like if someone's got a good kit and they're a good player, like bring it please, because you're not going to be used to my stuff.
But if they come in here, they have a good selection. They're probably pretty confident.
Yeah, and I work with a lot of like indie stuff where they kind of don't really have the greatest gear anyways.
Right.
So, you know, might as well just have something that already is tuned up.
Yeah.
You know, that's really the thing, is like tuning. Because like, you know, if someone brings a kit in, and maybe it does have heads on it that are good, it's going to take me an hour or two to tune them up. Like these are all in tune relatively all the time. Right. So, you know, and if it's not quite right for the song, I can sit down in like a minute or two and just kind of adjust it.
So I'm asking a really naive question, but that really makes a difference. That plays a huge role in the sound of the mix of the drums.
I would say it's like the second most important thing. The most important thing by far. Like that's the other thing is like, as a guitar player, a lot of people like complimented me on my guitar tones because I was like, but I never really thought about it much. And I was like, oh well, I'm a guitar player, so I just know when you palm mute like this, it should sound like that. Right. When you pick like that, it should sound like that. You know. And I never really had that same thing with drums, and I wanted to learn more about drums. So I've been buying stuff, kind of learning, and the most important thing is how the drummer hits the drum, like straight up. There's nothing by a long shot that's gonna fix that. You know, I've had drummers come in and they're like, "Oh, it sounds bad." I'm like, "Well, you're hitting like at the top of the snare drum, like hit in the center, and it's gonna sound fantastic." You know, can never fix that with it. Only way you can fix it with samples, you know. That being said, you know, having a handful of different kits for different vibes, you know, is pretty helpful. I kind of wanted to have like originally 3 kits, like an old kind of 50s something, something really, really modern, and then something kind of like with a lot of big sizes, kind of like Bonham kind of thing. Right. And I kind of have that with these 3 kits. And then this Gretsch orange kit over here, I got for a deal before I had any of these other kits, and it just is so freaking good sounding. I just can't get rid of it. It's like it would make no sense. Man. It sounds so good, and it's like you put a mic on and you're like, that's done. You know, you don't have to do anything to it. Yeah.
What's this big?
So that's actually the same era as these drums. Yeah. And that's a 28. A marching drum.
Oh, and it's the same.
It's the same. Ludwig. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Wow.
And it's kind of funny because like it's blue sparkle with red things, and I have blue and red on.
Yeah. Does it get used?
Yeah. I just use it. I'm working with this fantastic band, Boo Radley Project.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, we use that a lot. It's
that band sounds familiar.
Yeah, they're all over the place. They're like a 9-piece, 8-piece, like kind of from Guelph, kind of from Aurora. A couple members that are a little more GTA, but. Yeah, I usually use it as more of like a kind of like a thunder drum, with some mallets. But it's pretty cool when you want
all your Mumford and Son bands that come in here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's great. This it looks great, and I love this type of kit. I'd like to get a house kit for my place when I get some more space, and I think I'd love to go vintage like this, or maybe something like custom, brand new. But I just this looks so cool. Yeah,
it's so hard with drums. Like they just sound so different, and like what you want to do with them, it's pretty tricky, you know. Yeah. Like I have this brown Gretsch kit for like walnut color. It's like 24 18-inch floor tom, 13 14 tom.
Yeah, I noticed that.
It's really huge. And that's great for just like this kind of big, if you want to do like big country or big rock and roll kind of thing.
Right.
And then, you know, this is kind of old school indie stuff and really modern DW if you want that.
Right.
And then the Gretsch Sparkle kit is just It's always just.
So are you done? Are you done for drums?
Well, we haven't looked at the snare drums or the cymbals, but sure, I'm done.
Let's go. Let's check out the control room.
Cool.
Harley, I got a great story for you. This is an homage to you.
Okay.
You, my friend, have changed my life, and you don't know it. You've had this for. I tell you, I know a lot about your life, which is creepy, but. It's because you post a lot on social media. Yeah. But you've had this for, what, like a year and a half?
Yeah, so? That's pretty much exactly about it, yeah.
So for a long time, I had arbitrarily thought I need to have a piece of Moog in my home studio because I just thought it should just like, so people come in and see, oh, he's got a mono synth, that's cool, vintage synth, whatever. So I was like, you know what, I'll get one of those sub fatties, the little gray one.
Yep.
And I went to Long McQuaid. I played at the sub fatty. Like, this will be fun, and it's like $800, whatever.
Yeah.
It'll be, and then it'll just sit like kind of like on top of a speaker somewhere.
Yeah, look
for
cool.
looks.
And when you do want to do that thing with it, it's cool.
And then you posted about this on Facebook, this one, the Sub 37, and then I think it was you or somebody commenting on it said like, if you're gonna get the sub fatty, you might as well get this.
Get the Sub 37
because a new sub fatty is not much cheaper than a used sub 37.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I think it was you or somebody posted from you about how this is just more logical than the sub fatty.
It is, yeah.
And I was like, damn it. Now I got to save up double from what I was looking to spend.
Yeah.
And I was just looking to get something that sat in the corner and looked cool. So there's an end to this story. So I ended up finding one of these for about 1,500 Canadian, which is a great used price.
Yep.
I went up and picked it up. I bought it. And I come from a folk music background. And so I thought I had no business owning something like this. And I thought I'll play with it and I'll probably sell it within a month.
Yeah.
And it's now my favorite purchase in the last 10 years.
It's a lot of fun, man.
And I will buy more Moog stuff. I want to get the DFAM. I want to get the Mother. I just love this. Yeah. I love this thing.
I know. It's fantastic. There was just a time where like everybody, anytime I'd see one of these pop up in a YouTube video or something, it was just like, what? Like, what is that? Like, I want that, And I, did my research and looking up the sub fatty, like you're saying, it's like, if you're playing live a lot and you want it to be pretty simple, sure, get that. But if you want to do just a little bit more than super simple, the 37 is what you need. And
I think it's one of Moog's best products, and they're absolutely beautiful the way they've built them. They're big. And the controls, everything being right here, yet it still has the software. Yeah. So like I'll create something, use it on a track, and then I will save it with the file name of the song, just because. Yeah. And then you can do that with USB.
Yeah, and bring it back, and then if you're like, I really like that sound from before, but I want to tweak it a little bit.
Tweak it. I know.
It's just an incredible interface.
And it can do. I mean, when I first got it, I thought I don't really do that type of like funky lead line that Moogs are known for, but you don't need to do that. Like,
no, and that's the thing. I'm not a keyboard player at all. I can barely I can play like a couple chords maybe, but I usually use a lot of these keys just as like a sound source to effect, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what I love about the Moog is it's really more of that. Like I'm not like the Poly 6 is fantastic for what I needed to do sometimes, but like the Moog is like you kind of hit something and then you start messing with it and it turns into something, instead of like an actual keyboard where you have to actually play a part.
Yeah, that's right. And something like this would be more lush and distinctly 80s.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas you could do 50 different sounds and people wouldn't know that it's a Moog.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially then when you put it through delay or stereo reverb.
Yeah, exactly.
And I honestly, I'm not saying this because the cameras are, I was thinking it was because of you that I have this. And I love it. And I didn't even know who you were.
But. It was funny because like I remember like getting it and then like a month or two later you got one and I was kind of like, that seems like kind of a random purchase.
Yeah, but it was just, I was always thinking I'm going to get a sub fatty. And it was one of those things where I wasn't in a hurry. So when one turned up on all buttons, the first sub fatty, I would get it. But then it was like, oh shoot, like now here, and other people echo too. Sub fatty, go to this.
Yeah.
And And I got it just before the subsequent came out.
Yeah, same here. Or
it's I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary, and I just love this thing.
Yeah.
I also have like a drum machine that I route into it.
Oh, nice.
And you can control the filter and
cool.
stuff. It's so great. Cool. Anyway, I'd hang out there all day, but some of the folks will get annoyed by that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move over to the gear.
Beautiful.
You have some really, really cool stuff.
Thanks.
In the behind the scenes video, people will hear that we were talking about this before, but you are you're moving away from this eventually.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about this, how this came into your life.
It's a Tascam DM4800. It's got 24 mic pre's. You can use it as a control surface or Pro Tools or Logic or pretty much everything you want. It's a great live console. A lot of people use it live or used to use it live.
Right.
And when we were starting the studio, like we were kind of trying to find just kind of like a main centerpiece that we could do some digital recording with, because there's also an interface.
Right.
So interfaces into my computer, and it stuck around for a while, and we've had to do some replacements on it. Like a number of the faders are kind of getting funky.
Oh, sure.
This one especially is kind of just starting to funk up. But I've got a couple spare ones, and they're pretty easy to replace. We replaced the screen. The screen is notorious to getting like crazy.
And that's not a fun purchase.
Yeah.
It's not a fun repair.
No, it's not. It's pretty complicated. Yeah. It's actually not that complicated when you open this thing up. It's like a lot of like clips and things. So, and like little solders. So, I mean, if something really big went, like some of these preamps are kind of getting a little weird.
Okay.
So, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to fix those or not.
And what era is this from? Like, what year would this be?
I think they only discontinued them a few years ago.
Oh,
so like we bought it pretty much new.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's been out for maybe 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They
had there's like another kind of weird. There's a smaller version that only has like 16 instead of the 24, called the 3200. I think they still make that.
Okay.
And it's basically the same thing. It's just
we've seen a few of these like relatively modern digital consoles, and I wonder if we have seen something like this. I can't remember.
Possibly. There's like a Yamaha one that a lot of people use.
Okay.
This one was like kind of cheaper. I think even Daniel Lanois had one of these for a while that he actually used to like route all of his crazy stuff together.
Oh, nice. So you can use the transport though in Pro Tools. Okay. Okay. Cool. That's handy.
It's kind of handy. I use to stop and play a lot, but the record sometimes is funny and like it's just easier to kind of like
It's weird with digital, It's like analog, it's either on or off, whereas digital, it's like some days it works, some days it doesn't.
Exactly. And unless it's like an actual computer, it's really hard to make it work right sometimes.
Right. Okay, let's go through some of your stuff. I always love seeing what you have. Okay, so Tube Tech, is that double channel?
Yep, it's just a mic pre, tube mic pre. I'm a pretty big fan of stepped stuff, or kind of like just knowing where I am all the time and kind of gain numbers. It's pretty straightforward.
What kind of pre would that be? Like, is it gritty? Is it clean?
It's pretty clean. Yeah. It's a little colorful. Like I would say it's sort of like an LA610 a little bit, but like a little bit cleaner and a little more hi-fi.
We haven't seen very many of them, actually.
Yeah, Chalet has one of these, and I think Catherine North has a couple of them.
Oh, okay,
But they don't make them anymore either. They have a new version called the MP2 something, and it's like more versatile, but I just like a stepped control. I just like that.
Do you have a go-to pre? Like, what's the one pre you use
Chandler
the most?
TG2.
Okay.
If I knew what I knew now when I bought all this gear, I would have just bought probably like 30 of these or something like that.
Why is that?
I just like its control. Like, it has small steps. You never have. There's no pad, so you can just go all the way down, and there's no gain. Go crazy with it. There's an impedance switch. It's just straightforward. Like, and on top of that, it just sounds fantastic. It's very clear and very present, but still not harsh or anything. It's like a lot of people say it's kind of like a brighter Neve kind of thing.
Okay, cool.
I'm not a huge fan of Neve, honestly. I've never actually used a real Neve, so my words are kind of unjust. But almost every clone I've used, I kind of didn't care much for.
Yeah.
I got this Vintech for a super crazy deal.
Those are cool.
The EQ is just amazing on it.
Yeah.
So I kind of kept it, and I'm gonna get another one because I just like the operation of them. It's stepped. It's got an impedance. And
they are really
EQ
cool.
Really
I haven't used this model, but I have used one with the shelves, and it's
those
just
are great.
very handy.
I borrowed a bunch of those from people too. They're great.
Yeah. This is a real beast.
Yeah.
And what do you use that for? I mean, I was actually looking at that because they had that in the Nelson room, and I wouldn't be able to afford it, not with 2 kids.
I know.
But
It's a very expensive piece. There's out of the entire studio, there's not a whole lot of stuff that I've ever bought new. These monitors and these 2 Chandler pieces.
Is that right?
Everything else I've bought used, pretty much.
I know that. I see how much you buy.
Because these never come up used, and to buy one off eBay used, it's like $100 cheaper than buying it from Long McQuaid or something.
Well, yeah. I mean, if somebody buys that, they're pretty serious.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people I think in the States too that like, it's almost like guitar pedals like we were talking, like they trade them kind of, but it's on a much higher scale, you know. I actually, funny enough, I was gonna Tim from Nelson Room. His is the reason that I got this.
Oh, okay.
I had a Manley Very Mew for a while,
Yeah.
and we kind of worked on a maybe trade, and we kind of did like a partial swap for a little bit, and I got that back here, and I was just like, I can't live without this piece.
Oh, so you borrowed his?
I borrowed his,
okay.
and I was super hoping he was going to trade, but he didn't want to trade. But I just was like, yep, I got to save up every dollar because this thing is just is amazing.
Have you used the UAD version?
I haven't because I'm not a UAD user quite yet.
Oh, okay.
But
I'd be curious to know how close it is with someone like you who's got the real thing.
From most people I know that have used mine or used Tim's, I think there's another studio in the GTA that has one. It's similar, but doesn't have the same like aggressive. The craziest thing about this is like even just having like these switches, so you have an out. Like it's kind of like a Q switch, so you can kind of have it like tight Q or wide Q.
Yeah.
Just having it on in all these like tight Qs, it's like the transients of the whole mix just punch you in the face.
Wow.
And it like saturates really well, and it's always on my mix bus, almost always.
Is it?
I use it on overheads a lot. It's just fantastic to kind of like.
When it's on your mix bus, like how aggressive are you being with it? Are you?
Depends the song. Depends on how. Well it was recorded or how much I really want to like control it. But yeah, usually about a dB. Or well, I'm almost always in this higher setting, so maybe about 2 dBs kind of across the board, here and there. About a dB I would say. Boosting.
They're not linked at all. You have to make.
Yeah, you gotta do them individually, but they're stepped, so it's like super easy to recall.
Such a great. Yeah. It's just such a cool thing.
It's a thing that just like pushes it to your face all of a sudden. Yeah. Like you click that in and it's like it's jumping out of the speakers.
Oh man. The next thing I really feel like I need in my life is a great stereo EQ for the mix bus. Yeah. And you have the 5500, which we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
This and that are like my 2 dream pieces. So I really feel like you're rubbing it in with me here. But
I searched for a long time to find like a piece that was kind of like my, I don't know, like my, like the cherry on top. I could run my mixes through and kind of really kind of have something to kind of polish everything with.
Yeah.
And I had a Manley Very Mew, which is pretty great, but not exactly for like some of the stuff I do. I had a pair of Chandler LTD2s, which are like kind of like an old Neve compressor kind of thing, and those are really great too. But this thing really did it for me.
What's this guy here?
This is actually kind of a funny piece. It's made by Manley.
Oh yeah.
But they use the Langevin name. So Langevin's like an old company, kind of like Telefunken or Simmons or. Yeah, and so they bought the name and just started making these weird. It's just basically a solid state Manley.
Okay.
So it's like a Manley pre, and then you have like kind of like a Pultec style high shelf, low shelf thing.
Oh, okay.
And then you have like their Manley ELOP here, like the electric, like it's basically like 2 LA2As, but solid state.
That's pretty cool.
And this thing was like $1,000.
Never seen anything like it.
It's really fantastic.
That's great.
I use it on toms mostly. A little boost, and a little bit of kind of optical compression if you need it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just very useful.
More toys over here. Let's start at the bottom. Man, you've got so much great stuff. Okay, sorry. So talk to me about this EQ here.
So it's made by. It's a company called Tone Lux, and it's made by Paul Wolf, who owned API for a long time. Oh. And he actually designed this EQ. Like, I mean, obviously it's based on a 550. Yes. But the few extra features that are on this, he made it, and also the the API 2500, their stereo bus compressor. He made that as well. Oh. So he's designed a lot of the stuff for API because I think he bought them in like, I don't know, the 80s or something. So a lot of the modern API stuff is his design. And
this is his new company.
Yeah. Well, it's actually kind of now his older new company because I think he's in a few other companies as well.
Okay.
So I don't think he owns this anymore because I emailed them a while ago and they just never responded.
Oh, so they're done?
I think they still make stuff, but they make consoles actually.
Okay.
And then they have these few extra pieces. Like I had a 500 series one of these actually. That's at Justin's studio.
Oh, okay.
So.
I've seen this. Sorry, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like it's
very
head or something. But
yeah, it's very similar to like an API 5500, except it's not stepped, and the sweep is just way bigger. Oh, and it's like really clear and kind of, but still very round. I don't know. It's almost like a Pultec kind of feel mixed with an API. I would say. Yeah.
So this guy, I'd love to try this out before we go, but. This, I mean, is a really expensive piece, and I think it's such a great idea because you can track through these too individually, right? As if it was a 500 series.
Yeah.
And then, would you use this on a mix bus?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have another option. But.
Yeah. Well, they're this is a lot cleaner.
Okay.
It's got a little kind of like punch to it, but there's also you can get one with a transformer output option, I think. And the two mid bands, you kind of don't really, when you're doing this on a mix bus, you don't really use them too much.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, I haven't had a whole lot of people use them on a mix bus, and I don't really like them on the mix bus for the middle bands. The high and the low shelves are pretty great. They're very like round.
Oh, you can turn them into a shelf. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the two mid bands, they don't really do a whole lot, but for the master bus, but the other two are great, and it's a lot more subtle than the curve bender. So it's great. Sometimes if I'm doing mastering, I'll kind of plug them both in, and depending if I want to kind of do like a lot of boosting but have a very subtle sound, I'll maybe use the API. It's kind of fast and punchy, but it's not. Where you hit the curve bender on, and it's just kind of like it's a different song almost.
Wow.
Where this is like just slight. Gently pushes.
This is something I'd really, really like to get. I'd love to hear it too. And then these
these range. Switches, the range is really why I got it, because most of the time when I'm using API EQs, like sometimes I just want a little bit, and doing 2 dB on an API because the Q is so wide, it's a lot. Yeah. So these are just such a great idea. Crank. So now you're actually with like half a dB. So you can. It's just such a useful thing.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I see how that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So and that's not something that would be on the 500 series.
Unfortunately, not. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. I can't remember how it actually works like that. I think they're like those switches are connected to all the gain pods or something. It's something that can't fit in the 500 series.
It's a genius idea.
It is a genius idea.
Yeah.
And that's why Paul's just a really smart guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a lot of podcasts too. Like he's on a lot of podcasts.
I have to check it out. That's really cool. Love that piece. And these are great as well. So you have two. Are they the exact same?
They are a matched pair. Yep.
And then is this something you buy separate to link it?
It comes with the matched pair.
Oh, okay.
So I had one of these for a while actually that now Mike owns.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah, I've seen that one.
Ian from Union had these originally, and he sold me the single one that I had before because he was going to buy these.
Oh, okay.
And then he got rid of these, and I was like, yeah, I just need the two of them are fantastic. It's just honestly, it's amazing. It's basically a tube 1176.
Right.
So it's almost like you have an LA2A and an 1176. Together, And
it's different from the bigger ones that they have.
The stay level, yeah.
And those are what, more like LA2A style?
Yeah, they're a little like less control.
Yeah.
Like some people kind of say this is almost like a distressor with the amount of options it has.
Right.
I'm not a fan of like a lot of options. I like something that I'm going to plug in, turn on, and it has one dial. Because that's I don't want to get too complicated with it. But this is like you set it one way for one thing, and you don't need to do anything else. And the greatest thing about these is on the master bus also.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A lot of people don't kind of realize that, but Greg Wells, who's like, actually he's Canadian, but I think he's in LA, and Adele, Mika, he's fantastic. I love everything he does. One Republic. he's got 3 of these, and he was saying that he loves them on the master bus. And yeah.
And like subtly on the master bus?
Pretty subtly. It's almost like I mean, like we were talking earlier, I've never really been a tape guy.
Yeah.
But I kind of imagine it's kind of what tape is like.
Right.
It's like just a big gushy saturation thing.
Oh man.
You know.
This is great. You could probably get some pretty decent sounds out of this studio, eh?
I try. I try.
I love this. Is some great stuff up here. What is this little like a SSL style?
Yeah, it's an SSL clone.
Oh, it has a blend.
Yep, and it's stepped.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was looking for an SSL clone because like everyone else, SSL on the master bus. Why not?
Yeah, totally.
And this thing just it was stepped, which is super important to me for recall. Even though these 176s are not recallable, they have 100-point markers. Yeah, so you can almost always recall them.
Right. Do you take notes or take pictures? How does that work?
I have like a Google Drive where I go in and I type what I'm gonna do. I used to do the picture thing, and then like my phone just had what session was this?
Oh my gosh, no kidding. Yeah.
And I also did the thing. I print out like a bunch of like.
I've done that before too.
Yeah. And it's handy, but then I have so many of them, and I do them on like sometimes on sessions that like I'll never come back to. Yeah. So, just keep it digital. If this place burns down, I still have.
Yeah, it's true.
But
you won't have the gear.
Yeah, I won't have the gear, but I'll have the recalls. But yeah, this is an SSL kind of deal, and it's just got a couple more options. The main one, the really important thing that a lot of people don't realize about the SSL is the bus compressor is how it sees the audio, because a lot of like those kind of clones, like the GSSL, like the Giraffe one that everyone's using as a clone, is they sum the sidechain to mono. So what's in the center gets hit harder, and you don't kind of get actually an even spread of the compression. And I borrowed a handful of clones from people, and they just never worked the way that I like them to, because I used to do a lot of metal where it's like really like hard pan stereo guitars that are kind of loud, and not that you're going to compress those, but like you got to see the scale, like it's just got to be more even, and that's one of the only ones that has like a dual side chain, I think it's called, or something. Yeah. And it's made by a brand called TK Audio. I think they're from Sweden, maybe.
Oh, who I think Tim has this, right? But the big version.
Yeah, the bigger version, I think, yeah.
Yeah, we've seen that. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so...
And it has like really low ratios, like 1.5 and then like 1.25.
Oh, this is the ratio here.
Yeah.
Attack, release, makeup, threshold. Okay, and then so...
High pass filter.
And then what is this? What are these two buttons? What's this top one?
So that's 80 hertz high pass filter.
Oh,
and then you push the bottom one, it's 150, and then you push them both, and it gets the 225 or whatever that says.
What do you normally use?
I never use those at all.
Never? Okay.
Almost never, no. Unless I'm doing, like, very rarely. Like, maybe if I'm doing, like, a folk song that, like, ends up having, like, a really big kick drum in it at some point. And I don't want the mix to go crazy.
Yeah.
But for most rock stuff, you kind of want that low end.
You want the low end tightened up a bit.
To, like, kind of trigger it,
Yeah.
I like there's some, like, some plug-in ones that has a variable high-pass filter. And, putting it up to, like, 40 or something is really nice, just to kind of not get triggered by those subs.
Yeah.
But the 80, it's like, all of a sudden, not even the snare is triggering it. Right. It's like such a steep on that one. It's kind of a bummer, but
yeah.
But yeah.
I have a knockoff bus compressor, SSL bus compressor, and I love it. Like it has changed the way. And I mean, I would love to like maybe do something a little higher end one day, but for like $1,000, I'm very pleased with it. And it's. What it has done though is it's done something psychologically, and it's brought in the behavior of offline bounce or like real-time bounce and like printing a mix and sitting there and listening to your mix and watching what it's doing, and as opposed to just quickly offline and running away and it's in Dropbox. Now it's like slowly going through the process, and I don't know, it's just done something for me. And now I want to add like an EQ to my mix bus, but it's done something for me just to see it come into the real world once.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's something about that analog gear that, like, for me, it's just a lot easier to get the sounds I want. Especially these 176s, like vocals, bass. That's pretty much. I don't have to do anything else on those.
And it's funny you say the word easier because people would say, digital. It's supposed to make our lives easier.
Yeah.
But just to see it go out, you see what's happening. You're touching the knobs. You're hearing it live.
Yep.
And then it's like, no, that's it.
Yeah, it's
and I think having a million EQs that you could throw on and the way the Pro Tools design is you can take a mono EQ, put it on a stereo mix bus, and it becomes a stereo EQ.
Yeah.
And I feel like having infinite options like that makes your job not as easy as if it was like
there's so many options you can't pick.
Yeah.
Or you're like, well, this is pretty good, but what if it was better? Totally. And then you're just. Yeah. Like I same with plugins. Like I've tried a lot. Like, and I would say that most of the stuff in this studio is me trying everything. Yeah. And then being like, well, I only need 10% of that. Yeah. To actually do what I need to do. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. So yeah.
Well, man, I love this place. It's like humongous. I can't believe it. You have so much gear that I don't like doing studio tours where I come away like feeling less of myself. Oh no! I don't think like, what do I got to do to get one of those curve benders? What do I got to do to get a drum kit like that? Who do I have to kill? But it makes for a good studio tour. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Had a great time.
For coming.
It's good to finally meet you. All right, thanks, Jake.